What happens when we die? Well, that's a question that I think everyone at some point in their life searches for the answer, and it still remains elusive. Well, since being on this journey, I've come to realize that we don't die. We transition to another form, to another frequency, to another dimension. Well, a few days ago was my dad's birthday, and those of you that have been following me or subscribed to this channel for some time know that he passed away back in January of 2020. And the whole experience that I've had, or the experiences around his passing, around his death, leading up to that, and even after that, have just really substantially given me a boost in terms of my growth in my healing process. Well, after my dad passed away, I remained in contact with him. Now, over the last few years, that contact has dropped off a little bit. And that's mainly because of me, because I have looked in a different direction. I've been more focused on my journey and haven't really been too focused on connecting with my parents, both my mom, my dad, my grandparents, and others like that. I've been really working through my healing process, the dense energy, and getting into my body and really alchemizing that so I could ground more of my higher frequency light. Well, the other day I was fortunate enough to really connect with him on his birthday, and we had a really amazing conversation. It started out by him explaining to me, and he's mentioned this to me before, but I'm seeing it now from a different perspective because he is coming at this from a different perspective. So I started asking him about where he was or what was going on, because I noticed a difference in his frequency from when he had first passed away. It felt like I was communicating more with him how he was when he was alive. Well, now this was a very different experience. He seemed more wise, more integrated, much more even keeled and aligned and balanced. I guess that's the best way to describe it. Well, he had indicated to me that I was really, in terms of our language, could have considered that I was talking to his oversoul. Okay, so let me explain. When he was here in the physical, or anyone who has passed, when they were in the physical, their awareness or a portion of their awareness was focused here in the physical body so that they could have experiences. Now, he was explaining to me that since he has passed on, as time has passed, and yes, there is an element of time, and I will explain that later in this video. Since that time has passed, he has pulled away from this universe, from this earth plane, from these dimensional fields that we experience here in this universe. Now, he referred to our universe as a universal sphere, meaning that everything that we're experiencing is contained within this universal sphere. Everything from our five senses, any perceptions that we have, our ET guides, the different frequency bandwidths, those lie within a universal sphere. So he sent me this image. It's this big giant sphere with electricity running through it. And within that sphere was our entire universe, universes, okay, multiverses, different dimensional fields, different incarnations of beings in those different dimensional fields that we as humans can't necessarily see. But yet when we rise in frequency or get aligned, we can experience them for sure. So he explained to me that after he had passed, he was in what was like a staging area that was outside of this universal sphere, different place, where he had to reacclimate to his energy, to being removed from the physical body. And since then, his frequency has risen. And he is still outside of this universal sphere, but yet he has the ability to perceive everything that's happening within it. In fact, he told me that he has aspects of himself, of his consciousness within this universal sphere. So it's almost like a parallel kind of a situation, a parallel reality, you could call it, but it's outside of our universal sphere. And he kept referring to himself as a reference point for me to help me understand that it was like I was talking to his oversoul. So not the version of him that was here in the flesh, but a higher frequency version of him, a version of him higher up on the branch of a tree, if you want to look at it from that perspective. So that was very fascinating. So I asked him, what was our role here? Why are we here within this sphere? Why do we come into this sphere? And he explained to me that we come into this sphere to expand this sphere. This sphere is a place where we can be a conduit for the energy of our souls. Okay, so basically, the energy from where he is punches through into this universal sphere through us, and we anchor it into the matter that is within the sphere, and that matter is created by consciousness. It's all the collapsing of the quantum wave, and all of that exists within this sphere. So all of our universal laws and our rules and physics and all that is contained within this universal sphere. So it basically is like a backdrop where this energy of, we can use him for an example, oversoul, can focus down, punch through into this sphere. And he also sent me an image of this sphere. It's almost like being a snow globe, self-contained environment. Okay. Except the energy comes into here through us. And then we are to get it out in waves, meaning we are to express that energy in waves. And as we do that, this universal sphere expands. Okay. So that's the purpose of why we're here. So we all have aspects of ourselves that lie outside of this universal sphere that we are connected to. In fact, that is who we are. We are energy. Okay. And outside of the sphere, they do have an identity or oversoul. There are energetic identities, but the term energy really has a different meaning there than it does here. Okay. Because once the energy moves into this universal sphere and comes down through our channel into our body, grounds into the matter, into the planet, and reflects out, that's something that can be manipulated within this reality of this universe. So we have the ability to take energy that really is kind of there, just still nebulous energy, and bring it into here, put it into motion, and send these energetic waves out into this self-contained universal sphere. Now, this universal sphere has an engine. It constantly is regenerating and recleaning itself. We have black holes. We have quasars, pulsars. These are objects in space that take matter and they break it back down into its energetic elements and then reconstitute it as matter as it comes back out through these objects in space. So we've got these quasars, pulsars, black holes working together, things like that, to kind of recirculate this matter. And through the sun, through the central sun, through the great central sun, in comes our divine light. So they could come in through those channels, come down into here, focus it into a body, and then allow that energy to radiate out in waves into this universal sphere or this field, dimensional field, different dimensional fields based on what you're resonating to, where you're focusing your awareness. Okay, so we are to take that divine energy, pull it into this reality, which we could call the universal sphere, and allow it to move through us and project it out. Now, as it does that, it comes through our physical body, and we could get thought and we could get intent involved and affect this reality in specific ways based on that intent. And that's what we are here to do. So the more of us that awaken and ground into the body, into the planet, allows you to draw more energy into the universal sphere. And as long as you stay grounded, that energy will come back out through you in waves, repeating waves, and it will go out and it will have an effect on this universal sphere. And the more people that do that, the more this sphere will expand. It will get bigger because that energy, that light is coming in here and it is causing this expansion. So the more you expand, the more the universal field or sphere expands. Okay, I hope this is making sense. Now, where we get tripped up, he was telling me, is when we get unplugged, when we don't ground, when we don't anchor the energy in, okay, because these aspects of us, our oversoul, are the light's coming in, it's sending the light in. Okay, that's coming. And we here as the human can't do anything about it. We can't stop it. We need to integrate this light. We need to allow for this light, because if we, from the oversoul level, can't get the light into this universal sphere to be able to project it out in waves and expand that sphere and reconstitute that sphere, the awareness of the human body that the oversoul has manifested to do this job will start to pull away. Okay, so that's when we start to get stuck energy blockages. We start to get ill. We start to get sick. Okay, because if we can't ground this energy, this body that's manifested cannot do the job that it was created to do, which is to ground the light and share it in waves, send it out in waves. Okay, so when we start feeling stuck, our vibration starts to drop. You're almost like an overcharged, overamped battery. Okay, and that current has nowhere to go. That light has nowhere to go. Okay, the energy that comes in that's outside of this sphere is a different form than the energy we experience. Once it comes into this universal sphere, it changes into something that can be utilized within the properties of the sphere. Okay, so it comes into us and it needs to be grounded. We are a circuit. We need to be connected. We need to ground this energy so that we can send it back out into the field as waves. And we do that with that intent, okay, by healing, by feeling, getting aligned and allowing the energy to flow through you, raising your frequency and expanding your field. That continually sends that energy out in waves. It's coming in from the oversoul, it's coming through the sun, it's coming into the body, it's grounding into the planet, and it is being sent out in continuous waves. When you stop grounding, your frequency drops and that circuit shuts down. Okay, and if that energy cannot come in and move through you freely, the focus of your soul's energy will start to pull away and the body will start to break down. Okay, and that's how he explained it to me. Now, we have an element of generational stuff going in here too, where certain traumas are being healed. Let's say my grandpa, my dad had things to be healed, that things to be cleared, so that they could be a better channel for that energy to move through them. Okay, and they did the best that they could while they were here, but then they created a new channel, which was me. So your parents are creating you as a new channel, which is intended to be a lighter channel, a more healed version of them that can do a better, more efficient job of grounding that light. Okay, so we're coming in off of the same, from under the same umbrella of that oversoul as our ancestors, as our grandparents, as our parents, but meant to be lighter versions of them. So we do the work, raise our frequency, get more energy out there, and then others come in after us to take over. But it is all the same process of focusing in, doing the job, creating another entity to do the job, focusing in there, and creating yet another one to do the job, so on and so forth. So that's what's happening. It's like seeds being constantly sowed. Okay, and as that process continues, more of the soul's energy grounds into the universal sphere and expands it. Okay, so this was an incredible conversation. And again, the thing that really struck me was how different he was, because I haven't connected with him at that level of awareness or detail in some time. I've been working on myself a lot recently and just noticed how different he was. Now, he had memories, the awareness of me, the awareness of who he was, even the awareness that it was his birthday. But he did say to me that didn't matter. He was acknowledging it based on my perspective. Okay. And also, this information comes through me, through my filter. So it can't help but be modified or changed to some extent based on my experiences, my knowledge, and my reference points. But when I do receive this information, whether it's from my Pleiadian guide, my Arcturian guide, the Galactic Federation, my dad, my mom, whoever it may be, I get as aligned as I can, and I allow this energy to flow through and try to bring it forward in a way that is as detached as it can be from limiting beliefs and programming, if that makes sense. So what he was telling me was something that I haven't heard before. I haven't had explained to me like that before. Maybe you watching this have heard it from someone else. If you have, I'd love to hear from it. Please comment below. He did have a reference, as I said earlier, about time. So from what I gathered, there is an element of time where he is. Now, it may not be time like we experience it, but there is a reference to different points so that they can experience the changes that are occurring. Now, I probably assume as he continues to rise in frequency, that element of time continues to release. Okay, because when he was first transitioned, when he first passed away, he explained to me that he was in a staging area, that we go to some sort of a staging area, which allows the awareness, the consciousness really to detach from the body and the awareness of the body, to kind of remember who you really are. Okay, so that staging area is very close in frequency to Earth. It's just outside of this universal sphere. Okay, and that's where the souls return. They're detached. They detach from the body. They shed the body. The awareness pulls away from the body. They find themselves without the body, yet they may have an etheric version of that body there. And they may have a version of time that might look very similar to what we experience here in this universal sphere. Okay, but as time progresses, as time goes on, that gets looser and looser and looser. So he does have an awareness of time having passed since we last spoke, since he's passed away. So he can experience that, but it's a much more loose construct of time. Almost, I guess you could think of it as like when you have a dream, you're in 4D. In your astral body, time is really funky, really weird. And as the planet starts rising up through the fourth dimensional field, you may be experiencing time in your waking state as being fluid and being weird. But yet he has the ability to perceive some sort of an element of time. Now, I call it time because it's moving through my limiting beliefs, my programming, this energy that I'm channeling is coming through my body. Okay, so it's being modified by the makeup of my body and the energy within my body, which is made up of my programming and my limiting beliefs to some extent. But I did get the perception that there is some sort of an element, or let's just say this, that they can perceive time in some sort of a way. Okay, so when they interact, he knows that this is a time that's in the future from when he's passed on. And he's even aware of my changes, my growth, and where I'm at in my journey, and even why I'm here, which was very, very interesting. But the more he rises in frequency, the less detailed things become. And it's a lot more of a holistic type of a communication, if that makes sense. More based on a larger perspective and less based on details. Whereas like my mom, when she first passed was communicating with me on very specific types of details, leading me to her safe deposit box key and things like that. Whereas now those communications are a lot more holistic, much higher perspective, like a 30,000 foot view type of thing. Okay. So the thing that was really, again, fascinating too, besides the time thing, was the fact that they're outside of our sphere, because we try to reconcile, well, what happens with them? We have our spirit guides, we have our ET guides, and when somebody passes away, and it's like, do they fit in with that somehow? What's going on? And we know that they have different versions on different frequency bandwidths here as well. So they may pass in this life, but maybe there's parallel lives where they're still alive. Things like that. Maybe sometimes we can communicate with those versions of them. They've passed away here, but yet they're still alive on a parallel life. And if we're integrated enough and on a high enough frequency, maybe we could communicate with them where they're alive actually in a parallel life, right? Kind of cross over and have a communication with them. But from this perspective in this lifetime, like where do they go, right? It never really seemed to fit within this universal structure with our guides and star guides, ET guides, things like that. So it was always a curious question to me, but he came in and offered this perspective, and it really makes a whole lot of sense. So when we think of it, we know we have these dimensional fields within this universe, in guides and higher frequency beings within this universe. Yet our divine soul's energy, even source, is outside of that. It's outside of this physical manifested universe. So when someone passes on, they step out of that. They regather themselves. It's a staging area. Okay. They remember who they really are. They remember that they're a soul connected to source. They see things from that perspective. So then they could turn their gaze back on this universal sphere where the living are, where these parallel realities are, where these higher frequency guides are, ETs and so on and so forth, and see it from that. And he did say that he does have aspects in this universal sphere, and he's aware of that. So very, very fascinating conversation. I would love to hear your perspective. Drop a comment below. I'd like to dive into this more. I know we're going to start talking about some of this more in the Starseed Ambassador group sessions monthly. So if you're interested in joining us on Zoom for that, there's a link in the description. You could check that out. Love to have you. Fantastic conversations there. But this is stuff that just started coming through, and I know there's going to be more coming through because I'm going to reach out again and connect with him. Every time I do, there's a higher or a new perspective, which kind of puts the missing pieces together as to how all of this fits, how all of this works. And again, it's as seen from a human perspective. This energy is coming through me, and it's coming through in a way that's as logical as I can explain it. So hopefully it makes sense. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little different than others. Probably jump on some Instagram lives and talk about this more and share some perspectives there too. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much for being here.